Welcome to New York Got Game.
Welcome back to New York Got Game. Your boy Dexter Henry here. We are in playoff mode as the Knicks are here in the playoffs. We saw game one on Saturday, and that was a good one for the Knicks. 21 straight point run for the Knickerbockers in that game. A fun victory. They now have a 1-0 lead in their series against the Detroit Pistons. So, for this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to break down what went right in game one. We're going to look ahead to game two. We've got a special guest. It's playoff time. I got my cape on. No time to waste. So let's get right into it.
The Knicks are heating up.
The Knicks postseason got off to a good start on Saturday with a 123-112 victory over the Pistons in game one of their first round series. Stefan Bondy, the great New York Post Knicks beat writer, he was in the building at MSG covering the game, and now he joins me on New York Got Game as we're going to look ahead to game two. Steph, what's going on, man?
Not much, man. Not much. It was an exciting time at the Garden, but the crowd was dead for, that third quarter when it looked like the Knicks were in trouble, and then they came alive, just like the Knicks did in campaign, pushed them to that excitement. So, game one win for the Knicks.
Game one win. It was a resurrection for the Knicks. They were dead. It's Easter Sunday now, and now they're looking good in the series, up 1-0. So, when you look at that, you talked about the crowd, Steph. What's your biggest takeaway from the Knicks winning game one over the Pistons at the Garden?
I mean, it's kind of the blueprint of a path to a Knicks series win, because the more talented team, the team with the more experience, just came through when it mattered most. And that's kind of what you expect from the more talented team and more experienced team. So as I'm looking at this series as a whole, I predicted the Knicks in 6, and if they're going to beat the Pistons, which, they look pretty good in the fourth quarter last night, that's the pathway to doing it, is just flexing your experience and flexing your talent when it really matters. And, Tom Thibodeau actually went pretty deep in his bench, deeper than I thought, and a lot of that was because of the foul trouble with Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart. But I mean, the guys had stamina. They had energy in that fourth quarter, and they really took it to the Pistons. A 21-0 run in the fourth quarter of a playoff game. I don't know if that's ever happened before, but it was big time for the Knicks.
Oh, big time. That run was big time indeed. What did you make of the Knicks' defensive game plan and execution that we saw in game one, especially with the way they were able to slow down Cade Cunningham?
Well, I wanted OG Anunoby on Cade Cunningham, and Tibbs followed up on that, and it worked wonders. I mean, OG Anunoby to me is obviously the best defender on the Knicks. He's an all-defensive player. He's stronger. He's more committed to getting through screens, and the Pistons just really couldn't crack that nut. So I went to Pistons practice today, and JB Bickerstaff was really getting on the Pistons' inability to set hard screens for Cade Cunningham. Maybe that's an adjustment in game two, but they really bottled them up. Now, the three-pointers were a problem. They've always been a problem for the Knicks all season long. Malik Beasley got off a few. Tim Hardaway got off a few. But all in all, if you're holding Cade Cunningham to what the Knicks did, and a lot of Cade Cunningham's points came in garbage time, so I'm not even counting some of them. If you hold him to what they did, they're in good shape.
Yeah, you'll take that every day if you're the Knickerbockers there. Now, with the Knicks point guard, we saw Jalen Brunson. He struggled with a shot in the first half of game one. Then we saw him tweak his ankle, left the game, returned to make some big shots. Seemed like he got his cape there when we saw him make those timely shots in the fourth quarter. Are you surprised at his ability to be clutch when playing through pain? And is there any concern about his health moving forward in the series?
Well, he's not on the injury report, or at least not yet. And so, I'm not surprised. He also changes sneakers, by the way. So he got the Magic sneakers on. It'll be interesting to see what he wears in game two, whether it's the purple ones or the other ones. But no, I'm not surprised. I've seen it since he got to New York. I mean, the guy's a playoff performer. He's been doing it his whole basketball career, whether it's in high school, whether it's at Villanova, whether he was with the Dallas Mavericks and was given the ball because Luka Doncic was hurt against the Utah Jazz, and he just took over. I mean, that's who he is. It's who he's always been. So I am not surprised in the least. I was surprised with how much he was struggling in the beginning. It seemed like that he was really having a hard time with Detroit's physicality. They were shadowing him. They were up in his body. They were doing all kinds of things to make him uncomfortable, and he was struggling. And I was waiting for him to figure it out, and I was waiting and waiting and waiting, and lo and behold, in the fourth quarter, he comes back from the locker room. Wait, he told me he wasn't in the locker room. He was in the hallway. Who knows where he was? But he came back with different sneakers and his cape, and he took over that game.
Yeah, he did take over the game with the cape. He was a different player once he came back. Now, you kind of mentioned this, Steph. We don't always see Tom Thibodeau go 9 deep in the playoffs. So how important was it for the Knicks to get contributions from 9 different rotation players that we saw in Game 1?
Yeah, I mean, for like I said, it was important for for the legs of the starters in the fourth quarter. Josh Hart, he was in foul trouble. He came in, he was struggling all game, but he came in fresh. I mean, this is a guy who was used to playing 40 plus minutes per game. He didn't have to do that in game one, and he came in the fourth quarter and really made a difference. So, it's always good when you can go to your bench and they hold, either hold serve or they actually build a lead. Now, listen, I don't think Tom Thibodeau is going to do that if there's no foul trouble. The reason why Landry Shamet came in so early was because Josh Hart was in foul trouble. So, Mikal also dealt with foul trouble, but Campaign showed you something, and Campaign was in the game in the fourth quarter instead of Mikal Bridges, and Tom Thibodeau rolled with that for basically the entire fourth quarter. So anytime you can get those contributions from the bench that you're not expecting, that's certainly going to boost the team. And if I were going to credit people for the win in game one, number one is OG Anunoby. Number two is Jalen Brunson, and tied with Jalen Brunson and karl-Anthony Towns. And number three is Campaign.
Yeah, hard to not go with those three. But I got to ask you this as a follow-up. You kind of led into this, too, because I got this message from the Minutes Police or the Minutes Karens or whatever we're calling them now. They want to know, Steph, do you expect Tom Thibodeau to continue leaning on a 9-man rotation if things get tight, if there's some more foul trouble? Do you think he will go back to doing some of what we saw in Game 1?
But yeah, I mean, if there's foul trouble and he has to take Josh Hart out in the first quarter, he'll certainly do it again. I don't think he's ever been that terrible with managing foul trouble. I think the knock on Tibbs with the minute stuff, I think where you can really get him is when the score is 20 points or more with 5 minutes to go and he still has his starters in the game. He's always done a pretty good job managing foul trouble. So I anticipate if there is more foul trouble or if somebody gets injured or what have you, that he'll go deep with the bench again. I mean, I don't think he's ever had a problem with that.
Yeah, no, that's good to know. We'll see how he manages that if he gets into that situation again. Want to bring it over to the Pistons because you were at practice today for the Pistons, and after the game, they still expressed a lot of confidence despite the loss. Do you think that's just youthful belief or something that the Knicks and their fans should be concerned about with this Pistons team and the way they're talking?
I mean, it's hard to say. It's also a matter of what else are they going to say? Oh no, we're done. They beat us in game one. Of course, they should believe that they should come back. And this team, to their credit, the Pistons, they've overcome all expectations before. So why not do it again? And I think that's their mentality. I think the most interesting comments to come out of practice today, the Pistons practice, was Asar Thompson saying, but really having confidence in the way that he defended Jalen Brunson. Now he got into foul trouble, and he did say that Jalen Brunson creates that foul trouble with. He didn't use the word flopping. I forgot the word he used, but it's another word for flopping. And he also said that when asked what's the biggest challenge that he faced or learned when watching the film of guarding Jalen Brunson, his answer was nothing. So he's coming into that matchup with a lot of confidence. He's certainly an elite athlete, and he's going to be the guy guarding Brunson from tip-off. Whether or not he has any success, we'll see. But like I said, in game one, he didn't have as much of an opportunity as you would think because of all the foul trouble. So the Pistons went to Dennis Schroeder and even Malik Beasley sometimes.
Yeah, we'll see what adjustments they make, which brings me to what I wanted to ask. What adjustments do you think the Pistons will look to make for game two? There's always going to be adjustments after a game one. What adjustments do you think Detroit will try to make here in game two?
I think a big question, all right, so let's move aside the adjustments, is whether Isaiah Stewart is going to play. And if he does or doesn't play, if he does play, what kind of shape is that knee in? Because, I mean, to me, he was a big difference maker in game one. He really played well for the Pistons. And when you talk about screens and physicality, he's the guy at the top of the list for the Detroit Pistons. I think when he's in the game with Cade Cunningham, it makes Cade Cunningham a better player. I think he is intimidating on the glass and the paint in ways that Jalen Duren is not. Jalen Duren did not have a good game. So I think before we get into adjustments, I think the big question for me, and so far there's no answer because he's questionable, is whether Isaiah Stewart is going to play. And if so, what shape is he going to be in if he doesn't? Because I saw him, in that fourth quarter, he signaled to get taken out of the game. So he was clearly in pain, and he's been dealing with that knee issue for a while now.
Yeah, that's a big question moving forward. Have they listed him yet so far for game two? Is he listed as questionable, Steph?
Questionable.
Questionable. So questionable for game
With
two.
right knee soreness.
Right knee soreness. So something to keep an
Oh,
eye
no,
on.
right
Yeah.
knee inflammation.
Right knee inflammation. So we want to make sure we get it
go.
correct. Okay, so something to keep an eye on for because there could be an adjustment there for the Pistons if they're going to play him, who they're going to play, who's going to help in his minutes. Something to definitely watch. On the Knicks side, Steph, what do you think is the biggest adjustment, if any, that they need to make going into game two to try to maintain control of the series?
They got to learn faster the way the game is being officiated. I think that was an adjustment from game one that they did not adjust too quickly enough. Certainly, Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart, and they got in foul trouble. So I think both those guys have experience. Both those guys understand what playoff basketball is like. And I think that the big adjustment for them is just being in the game. And then, off the bench, I did like what I saw from the double guard alignment with Miles McBride and Jalen Brunson when they were in the game together. I think we'll see more of that. I've always liked that alignment. So, even if those guys aren't in foul trouble, I think that Miles McBride and Jalen Brunson is a good alignment.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Also interesting to see if you see those guys out there with the two bigs as well, too. We saw a little bit of that in game one. And Steph, before this series, there was a great deal of talk, that the Pistons could possibly push the Knicks before the start of the series. What do you think a dominant game two win would do for the Knicks' confidence and their momentum before the series shifts to Detroit?
Well, I mean, a game two win, I actually wrote about this just now. I think teams up 2-0 win something like 94% of the series in the NBA. So if you take that, and now there's an exception, a notable one, which was last year, the Knicks went up 2-0 against the Indiana Pacers and still lost that series. Granted, there were some injuries that occurred during that series that kind of changed everything. But listen, if you take into account a 2-0 lead, the Knicks' talent advantage, their experience advantage, I mean, you're basically locking up the first round series if you win tomorrow in New York City.
Yep, those are the stakes. That's why it's such a big game in game two Monday night at the Garden. Last thing for me, Steph, looking at Monday night at the Garden, you talked about how big it would be for them to win. What would you say, if you give me three big keys, what's your three keys for victory for the Knicks for game two on Monday night?
Lock up Cade Cunningham again. I think there's going to be some adjustments on Detroit's side to free him up and get him going again because he's obviously a big key. So if OG Anunoby has the kind of game that he did in game one, then they're in very good shape. Jalen Brunson, do his thing, whether that's during the first three quarters, which he didn't do in game one, or is the fourth quarter. And my third, I mean, you're putting me on the spot here. What do you got? What's your third big key?
My third big key would be I need to see Cat play the kind of defense that he played. I thought Cat's defense was impressive, particularly in the fourth quarter. Now, I think you also want to see Cat take more than 14 shots. He was 10 of 14, very efficient, but I think you'd want to see him shoot more than there. But I think Cat, if he plays, look, I mean, you know this, Steph. You're around the team every day. If Cat plays that kind of defense, it's a game changer for the Knicks. I'm not saying he will, but just that kind of effort that he gave and how he played, I think, pretty smartly without fouling. I thought that was pretty good. One other thing I'll add is I would also say turnovers. I thought the Knicks, they've done a good job all season of taking care of the ball. Only 9 turnovers in game one. They forced a lot of turnovers against Detroit. I think if they take care of the ball, force a lot of turnovers, they'll be in good shape too. But I like your points though.
All right, I think you brought up a good point with Cat. I thought he had a very good game, and I think Jalen at certain times in the first three quarters was playing too much hero ball, and I wanted to see more shots going Cat's way, and I wanted to see more shots going Mikal's way because I thought Mikal had a good first half. He didn't have a good game overall because of the second half stuff and being benched kind of spoke volumes in the fourth quarter. But I wanted to see more of Mikal in the first half.
Let me ask you real quick on Mikal before I let you go. What did you think of his defense? Because I've seen a lot of talk on social media about Mikal's game. I thought defensively he was pretty solid despite the foul trouble. What did you like? Did you like his defense in the game, or what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he played fine. When he's not on Kate Cunningham, it's kind of a secondary assignment. And when he was switched on Kate Cunningham, I thought he did a pretty good job. I gave him a C because now they got me grading the each individual games.
Yeah.
So I gave him a C, which was the lowest grade for the starting lineup. But at the same time, I thought the starting lineup played pretty well. Cat had a great game. Josh Hart struggled but he came through in the fourth quarter. Jalen Brunson struggled, but obviously came through in the fourth quarter. So, OG got the top grade. So, I thought he had a pretty good average game.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Now, look, you told me the other day, being the veteran reporter, I think that's the word I can use for you,
okay.
The veteran reporter that you are, you told me that you were playoff ready. But what I do want to know from you going into Game 2 is, do you have your cape ready for Game 2? That's what the people want to know. Does Stefan Bondy have the playoff cape ready to be the fantastic writer that he is for Game 2?
That's right. Well, next time you read my story, know that I strapped on the cape. Not only strapped on the cape, but I switched my sneakers up. I got some new kicks on, and I got the cape on, and I'm writing that game story hard.
Yeah, that's what you want. Game stories written with the cape on, the columns for New York Post Sports Plus. Check him out for Stefan Bondy. He'll be all over through the series. Steph, thanks for joining me in New York Got Game. I'll talk to you after Game 2.
All right, man.
All right, so we'll see if the Knicks can get a win in Game 2 at Madison Square Garden. Hopefully the crowd has a lot more to cheer about than they did early on in Game 1. Speaking of Game 2, we are going to have another live New York Got Game Knicks watch party for Game 2 right here in the New York Post studios. And joining us will be the great Al Cintron from WFAN. He's going to bring a lot of energy. Myself and Brian Fonseca, we had a lot of fun in Game 1 for the watch party. We're going to be doing this for every game of the playoffs for the New York Knicks. So please join us live for Game 2 on the New York Post Sports YouTube channel. That's going to do it for this episode of New York Got Game. Got to thank my guest, the great Stefan Bondy. My man has his cape ready. He is ready for this playoff series. Also got to thank the people that make this show look good. My producer, Nick Federico, editor, Corey Porter, and production assistant, Tommy Cohen, doing a great job this week for us. I'm Dexter Henry. We'll be back next week. We'll be talking about the Knicks after Game 4. We'll see where they are in the series against the Pistons. We'll catch you then.
And thanks for watching New York Got Game. Boom shakalaka.